Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Dean with Massabesic Gold and Silver. And today, continuing our silver dollar week here, we are going to be looking at some Canadian silver dollars. These range from 1935 right up until 1967. Some are proof-like, some are proofs, some are regular strike. The composition on all of these is 80% silver, 20% copper. And of course, as a reminder, if you have $10 Canadian silver dollars, that is 6 troy ounces of silver. Well, let's dive in here. For those of you who have been watching the channel for a while, you will recognize these 2 silver dollars I have here. This is the 1935 commemorative. It commemorated the 25th anniversary of King George V's reign. This really started the silver dollar series in Canada, and I also have the 36, which also features the portrait of King George V. And I go into great detail in the video that I did a couple months ago, so I'll make sure that I put a link for that video in the description, so if you do want to go back and watch it, you can. I go into great detail about the design, especially the reverse, and how that during the 150th anniversary of Canada, the celebration, the Royal Canadian Mint actually reproduced that reverse. Here is an example of a proof-like 1965. As I said, Emmanuel Hahn was the designer of the reverse of this coin. And the obverse for this 1965 was designed by ARNOLD MACHIN. And this was the second portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, as this was a little bit more of a mature portrait, and it also featured a tiara. This is probably one of my favorite designs for the portraits, as I grew up in the 1980s. And this design is what I grew up handling when I made my trips every summer to Canada. A lot of the dollars, though, getting back to these, do have some proof-like qualities. Here is another example of the new portrait. This is a 1966. You can see here this was well used, put out there into circulation. A little bit of toning, nothing fantastic, just a well-circulated dollar here. We have another example here. This was cleaned. This was a, you can see that this was a polished coin, 1963 here. Again, that designed by Emmanuel Hahn, but the obverse was designed by Mary Gillick, and she was in charge of designing that first young queen. In 1953, they used this design. Here's a better example of it. This is one of my favorite dollars. This dollar is probably in the MS63 range, maybe MS62, but there is a little something on the front here. But you can see the luster is fantastic. This is kind of what you want to see on these. This luster here, you can kind of see how it kind of spirals off of the heads there of the folks from the Hudson Bay Company. Let's get a closer look. So you can see the HB here on that little bag there in the canoe. That is for the Hudson Bay Company. And then you can see the First Nations agent there in the front, and then in the back you see the voyageur. He is, obviously they're working together to do the trade of the Hudson Bay Company. Again, if you go back to that video, I go into a little bit more depth on that. So this is from 1960. This is just a great example. You can see a little something right there. I can't tell exactly what that is. I don't think it is PVC. I think it's just, I don't know. I might try to see what I can do with that. But anyway, it's just a nice coin to be able to handle. It's not too high of a grade. You can see here that there's a lot of hits, a lot of bag marks on here. But overall, this is a nice coin. I really appreciate the luster, just as an example, especially of the young queen. I do like this portrait of the queen as well, especially on the pennies on the 1 cent. I really appreciate that. Here's a 1956. So this is also the young queen. This one here, you could see that it is proof-like. Unfortunately, though, it's just been handled a lot, so there's a lot of hairlines on there. Here's another great example. You can see the luster on this. Again, that's what you want to see on these, is that luster. There is a bit of a haze on this. I don't know if I want to dip this or not. I don't know. Anyway, this is a 1957, again, with the design by Emmanuel Hahn on the reverse. But again, it's got good luster, but I think this coin, I don't know. just some strange toning. I don't know if that was in a book for, you know, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'm hesitant to dip it. I just like looking at these coins because they're not over expensive. You know, that's the nice thing with these. I bought some of these for about $20 at the time, and they still pretty much trade in that area. Just looking at this, you know, you can see here. Yeah, it's just a really nice example. There's the EH there for Emmanuel Hahn. Yeah, like I said, these are relatively cheap. You can still pick them up even with the silver prices being high as they are right now. I think they're, you know, just in the $23 range, but overall these are relatively cheap still. And again, I like the luster, but whatever's on there is kind of too bad that it's there. This is one of my favorite dollars, silver dollars. The designer of this reverse was Stephen Trenka. This was to commemorate the centenary of the Caribou Gold Rush. I think it was the Caribou Gold Rush. Yeah, it was the Caribou Gold Rush in British Columbia, and it actually established British Columbia as a crown colony at the time. The design, of course, shows a totem pole section with mountains in the background, and the top element of the totem pole here is a raven, and then used by some of the First Nations to symbolize death. And as a result, it was rumored that those First Nations disliked these dollars, causing them to call them death dollars, which I think is kind of an interesting little fact. And then the obverse was the same as the 1954 through the 1957 issues, which we've already seen, the young queen here. So in 1959, they actually went back to the design that we have already seen here with the young queen, yes, on the obverse still, but on the reverse, they went back to the voyageurs. So it was just a nice design. You could see some proof-like qualities here on this coin. Here is the 1964 silver dollar. The reverse was designed by DINKO VODANOVIC. Talk about a great name. That is awesome. Anyway, this is just one of my favorite dollars. The reverse of the 1964 dollar is marking the centennial of the 1864 meetings that happened in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, and Quebec City, Quebec, which really prepared the way for Confederation to happen in 1867. Here's another example. Unfortunately, you can see there's a spot right by her chin there, but the reverse is really, really wonderful. Really proof-like qualities on this coin, as you can obviously see. It's really a shame that spot's there, but, you know, it is what it is. Let's take a closer look here. So again, the obverse was designed by Mary Gillick. And it was first from 1953 on to 1964. So this was the last time they used this obverse, and then in 1965 they made the change. So as you can see here, you can see her just really, I do like the young queen, but I will say that the second portrait was, I grew up with that portrait. Really some beautiful qualities here as we look at this coin closer. Just the detail is wonderful. It's just a real shame that spot is there. On the reverse, it depicts really a beautiful design. There's a conjoined circle, and within that circle is the French fleur-de-lis, the Irish shamrock, the Scottish thistle, and the English rose. And it's just really a beautiful design. And of course, you can see the city's names, Charlottetown and Quebec. Here's another favorite here. The design here was Alex Colville. He had designed this reverse for the centennial of the Confederation commemorative dollar that we see here. You can see that this includes the second portrait, the tiara portrait of Queen Elizabeth, because again, just a reminder, after 1965, this was the portrait that they used. You can see that this is a proof dollar with a little bit of a cameo quality here. You can see that kind of frostiness on her portrait, and when we flip this over, we'll take a closer look at the goose as well. But you can see here that kind of frostiness. It's really nice, has almost that cameo look to it. But again, this has been out there, so you can see a lot of marks. Here is the Canada Goose in flight. This was actually chosen as part of the set of the commemorative coins for 1967. If you have seen the sets out there. I recently just found one in a collection. I put up a short of that, which everybody apparently hated because everybody hates Canadian silver. Not really sure why. Canadian coins are fantastic, but anyway, it is what it is. So in that set, you have the Canadian goose in flight. You have a timber wolf along with a rabbit and a mackerel fish. And then my favorite, which happens to be on the quarter, which is the bobcat, which is just phenomenal. But yeah, it's a great series. And as you look at this coin here, you can kind of see that that cameo look here. Just a really nice coin, especially to be able to just hold. Well, let's get to the real heart of the matter here. This is the 1949 dollar. This was T.H. Paget designed the obverse, and then the reverse here was designed by Ernest Maunder, and the engraver, of course, was Thomas Shingles. This is just one of my favorite coins to own. This has this beautiful, beautiful ship. The ship is actually the Matthew. The Matthew is actually the ship that they thought that John Cabot was actually aboard when he rediscovered Newfoundland in 1497. Just underneath the ship, you can see the Latin phrase Florieta Terra Nova, and the meaning, I believe, is may the newfound land flourish. The reverse was actually designed, as I said, by Ernest Maunder. He happened to have a photograph of a model of the Matthew, and he was from St. John's, Newfoundland, and he provided that model to engraver Thomas Shingles. And you can see here this beautiful, beautiful design. And just to allow me to geek out a little bit about Thomas Shingles, he was a fantastic engraver, and he did his work entirely by hand without the aid of any type of reducing machine at all. So you can see the detail on this beautiful, beautiful reverse. The waves, just everything. The detail on the ship is just amazing. One of my favorite designs here. So why did they make this dollar? Well, in March, I think it was March 31st, if I remember correctly, of 1949, Newfoundland officially became the 10th province of the Dominion of Canada. And they wanted to make sure that this historic event was recognized with Canadian coinage. So they made this special reverse in 1949. Just really fantastic when you think about it. And it continued kind of that commemorative feel of these dollars, because remember, the 1935 Canadian dollar was really a commemorative as it started. It was commemorating that 25th anniversary of King George V's reign. So really a fantastic example here of this George VI. MS65, nice gem state. Yes, it's got a little bit of toning on both the reverse and obverse here, but overall a fantastic coin. Well, I hope you enjoyed this week of silver dollars. I hope you really enjoyed today's look at Canadian silver dollars. I hope people actually watch the whole video and maybe they'll learn a little something about these. Really, this is just one of my favorite designs. I could look at this reverse all day long. And this coin cost me a grand total of $60, if you can believe that. That's it, $60 for a gem state coin, 1949, just a really beautiful coin. Let's put these in for the money shot here, pun intended. So again, thank you for checking out my channel today, and until we meet again, stay safe and enjoy.